Okay, so I get to talk to you about some other fun stuff, some other aspects of the foundation. So I'm the Associate Executive Director, and what I do is I ask for money. This is my big job. And I deal with all of the day-to-day stuff and like the research opportunities and all the non-fun things, right? But they're actually the fun part for me, so. Oh, yes, Ethan is my son. He is 12, and he has AHUS. It's the cutest thing ever. Oh, those are my 3 kids. I have a 9-year-old Avery on the left and 7-year-old Sophie, and Ethan in the middle there. They're kind of cute. Okay, so first of all, I wanted to talk to you about PSI. Does anybody here not know who PSI is? So everyone knows PSI. Okay, so just kind of a reminder, they're a non-profit. They help with co-payment and premium assistance. Your one source can refer you to them. So if you meet anybody that needs help with getting co-pays and premiums, they also can, not always, but they can possibly help with genetic testing. They can also help with travel if you needed to do like some testing at a different doctor, mileage for infusions, different things like that. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask your case manager about them. One of the things with PSI is if you use them, go to their website and share your story. Right now there's legislation that is trying to be passed that would prohibit third parties like PSI to make your payments. If that passes, they wouldn't be able to help you with assistance. So they need stories to help push their policy forwards because we do not want that bill to be passed. So make sure that if you use them, go onto their website. It's just patientservicesinc.org, and there's a place for you to like submit your story, because the more powerful that we can help them, their voices be heard, then we make a stronger case in DC for us. And none of us want to lose our PSI assistance. Okay, so one of the exciting things that we've done is we have created our own patient registry. Currently, there's a patient registry that's industry owned, and it's phenomenal, but we wanted to create something that was a little bit more independent. So we've partnered with CORDS. They're in Stanford Medical Research Institute up in South Dakota. They have an amazing facility, and so they're running our registry for us, and you control your data, 100% of it. You can put it in. As a caregiver of someone under 18, you can put their information in. If you decide at any point you want to not be a part of it, you can go in and basically delete your account. It's 100% confidential and meets HIPAA compliance. One of the things that's been asked here a lot this weekend is how many people have AHUS. We only, because of HIPAA, which is a good rule, but because of HIPAA, we don't know the answer to that question unless someone signs up for something. So this registry can help us figure out, like if you go on there, I'm not going to know necessarily that Jennifer signed up, but I'm going to see that there is somebody in this part of Texas that has it. So we can start to map out and actually get a count for how many patients are actually out there, whether they are on treatment, whether, whatever the status of their disease is or what treatment they're using. We can start to actually give you the numbers of how many patients that there are. One of the things that the patient registry would be used for is for research. And that's kind of been the theme of Rare Disease Day this weekend, or this coming week. And research is important. And this morning when I flipped on Facebook, you know how it does your memories? So a year ago today, my family was flying back to Connecticut to go to Alexion for Rare Disease Day, and my son was able to sit and hang out with Lenny Bell for the afternoon. Lenny Bell's the doctor who created Soliris. And it was an amazing opportunity. And he was talking to us about how he started 20 years ago researching this drug. So it took 20 years for it to come to where it's at. And as he was sitting there talking, I thought, 20 years ago I was in college and I started dating my future, who was going to be my future husband. So in that whole time that we have built our family, he was creating a drug that now saves the life of my son. Research is important. We have to have it. We have an amazing team at the University of Iowa. But if any of you have ever put together a puzzle, you always are staring at these 5 pieces. There's no clue where they go. And then somebody else comes in and it's oh, it goes right there. And you're I didn't even see it. The more eyes that we can look at our disease, the faster we're going to get to better treatment options and a faster pathway to a cure. Right now there's the University of Utah Genetics Lab that is interested. There's a lot of researchers across the world. So what they'll do is they will be able to know that we have a registry. They'll be able to submit a proposal to us. If they are they have to be qualified researchers. It just can't be somebody that like wants to write a 4th grade English paper or science, project on HUS. But if they are qualified and their research meets our foundation criteria, we are then able to approve their research and possibly offer them funding for that. And as 100% of our donations go to funding, we want it to go to as many qualified people that there are so that we can move forward faster. Okay, so one of the things that we're also starting this year is our National Leader Program. So what we're doing is we are taking somebody in every state or in regional areas and making them a foundation representative. So if you think of how like a pharmaceutical representative works, it's kind of the same way. What we need them to do is basically we're compiling a list of every nephrologist and hematologist in their state or their region. From there, we'll be able to contact them with materials that we're going to soon start publishing, get them the information. Most hospitals and clinics do not allow pharmaceutical reps into their offices through their doors, that's okay. But one of the problems that we have found is that most doctors know about Soliris, but they have no idea of all the other companies that are looking at different treatment options that may have a clinical trial that might work for your patient because they can't let that pharmaceutical rep in the door. As a patient rep program, we're able to be that liaison between every pharmaceutical company and every foundation to the clinicians that are treating our patients so that we are able to get in the door. They'll also be able to have information on hand in their office so that when they do make a diagnosis, they can give them their clinical information. They can also give them materials about the foundation that will help give them the emotional support that they need. The patient national leader will also kind of act as a mentor for newly diagnosed patients in their area. I know I've gotten lots of calls in the middle of the night and from different people of, they've been diagnosed and they've been connected via Facebook or Instagram. So having somebody, and we're always happy to help anybody, but it's hard for me to talk to somebody in there was somebody I talked to in Philadelphia because I don't know the area and I don't know their team of doctors. But if somebody else is in Pennsylvania, they know the hospitals, they know the doctors, they're a much better connection for those new patients. Also being able to connect with local policymakers, it's a huge change for healthcare right now. There are a lot of bills that are getting ready to go through or being proposed that would work in our favor and also that would work against us. So being able to connect with the legislation on the issues that we would have a voice on and need help with, we're able to connect you guys to help with them. Okay, so there's different treatments and trials. So the downside to treatment and trials is that there's very little information only because there are very strict guidelines and regulations in place depending on what part of a trial or process of development that a drug can be in. The best place to go is the clinicaltrials.gov. Also, as we get information about a specific drug or a clinical trial, we will update it as well, and that's another reason it's important for our physicians to know about other possibilities. Okay, so we have Soliris, plasma therapy that is still used in certain cases, blood transfusions. Okay, so the Alexion 1210 has actually been moved to every 60 days. So that is in it's a biologic that's going to be based on weight. It'll be an IV infusion or via your port. It'll be every 60 days. That trial is still ongoing. And as they are able to release information to regulations, we're able to release that to you as well. And that'll be a section that's always on our Facebook page or on our website. Okay, Achillion, different oral medications. Achillion is working on one. Subcutaneous, which is like an insulin shot. So these are some of the bigger ones. Akari, Alnylam, Apellis, Omeros, and Raw Pharma. And there's actually one not on here. So ChemoCentrix is doing a drug study in Italy right now that'll end in July on an oral tablet. Also, the next biggest one that's further along in the process is Omeris, and theirs is on a subcutaneous. And I believe that we will have somebody there from Omeris at our Seattle conference to talk about the drug and where that's at sitting. All of these are in various stages, but so Akari, Alnylam, Apellis, and Ra, they're right now in the research and development phase of their drugs, and each one of them is hoping to go to phase 1 of clinical trials by the end of this year. The clinical trial, we talked about how the drug is made. It's not like a compound, like a Tylenol or something like that. It's a very long process because they are biologics, so it takes a long time. But, it took 20 years to get Soliris, and in the next 20 years, we're going to have a lot of medications available. And the big buzzword in medicine right now and within the industry is precision medicine. And this is what we are here as a foundation is to bring you, is your precision medicine. So Soliris is an amazing treatment, and it might not work for every mutation. And as we research and do more, we'll be able to give you guys all the information so that you're able to work with your team of clinicians and find out exactly what treatment is your best option. So has anybody heard about the Akari tick? Has anyone heard about that? So the Akari tick is phenomenal. So I read about this a couple years ago, and then when we had our conference call with Akari a few weeks ago, I was so excited. So has anyone ever had a tick? Okay. How did you notice that the tick was on you? Okay, it starts to be red, it gets irritated, you start to feel it. So Akari is based out of the UK, and there's a specific kind of tick that'll attack a deer mule. And the reason why they're studying it is because the tick is able to, when it lands on the deer mule, it's able to basically inject this serum that blocks any immune response from the deer mule. So the deer mule has no idea that the tick is on it, and the tick is then able to feed and do its own thing. Why that is important is because where it blocks is the same place that it can block in a complement system. So they have been able to take basically tick saliva and the proteins from it and are developing a drug from that, looking at to see if it can block in the same regard. So it's just fascinating, the research. Who would have thought? A tick. We all brush them off and check for them. They could have maybe down the road one day be some of our greatest allies. Some of these work differently. Some of them work in conjunction with Soliris. So they're all good. They work with Soliris. It's just as going to be, right now we have an amazing treatment, and down the road we may possibly have others. Just because they're listed doesn't mean that they'll ever come to fruition. This is just currently what is on the market right now. The biggest one though right now is the 1210 from Alexion, and that will be the one that finishes trials soonest. So that's the one we'll hear about first. Am I talking about this? Is this you? Okay. So really quick, I was just going to go a couple of other things about as far as what the foundation is doing. One of our biggest things is for education and research, and we are right now compiling a new medical advisory board, which will have, this is where we need your help as patients, like what is it that you need? So one of the things that they'll be doing is creating kind of a guideline. So if you go to the ER, say you're on vacation, you go to an ER that is unknown to your situation, you'll be able to have a guideline that says, this is what I have, these are the tests that I need to have run. If they're within these parameters, we need to see a specialist type of thing. So just some of those things to make living with this disease a lot easier. We're working on building actually like a family history questionnaire as well, so that you know the right questions to ask your family so that you can start to track it. The best genetic testing is just knowing your family history. And so we're kind of developing some of the questions that you'll want to know to ask them. Also with the list of the current causing genes, what the parameters are for different things. We're also creating a ground rounds program that the doctors will be able to take to their local hospitals and clinics and present just even specifically on the difference between AHUS and HUS and how to treat and what the protocols are. And then the biggest thing that we're doing right now is right now we are in the process of partnering with all of these drug companies so that as they get information, we're able to pass that along to you. We're going to be developing this year a patient advisory board, because a lot of the pharmacies or pharmaceutical companies, when we talk to them, they want to know what the patients want out of their drugs. And so we'll be able to say, I have these 12 people on my patient advisory board, you're welcome to contact you, you can contact them, they'll answer questions for you, and then you guys can help these pharmaceutical companies really make a difference in maybe how a drug is administered or how it's given, just answering questions that they need. And that's all I got.